Okay, where do I start? Let's start right here. At this very moment, where are we? We had a consultation with a really nice doctor, a surgeon, who is willing to do the surgery. He was very cool in terms of laying out what all of the possibilities were and what could happen. So now we've had the oncologist who laid out the path for us. That was radiation, chemo, with the knowledge basically that that the shrinking of a mass this size is not something that is going to really happen, but at least we could stop it from growing, which means that she could have a quality that pretty much mirrors the quality that she has right now, which, by the way, is not that bad. She's definitely more, quiet, but eating, drinking, cuddling, purring. She's still very much Caroline, but you can tell she desires to be a little nearer at this point. And she's probably feeling pretty cruddy. Don't forget, this mass is pressing up against, it's totally clear of the other organs, which is a miracle in itself, but it's pressing up against things like the diaphragm. So, but she's clear of the things like fluid on the lungs and things like that would signal that our time is short. Anyway, why did I go there? So that was the radiation route, which would include a bunch of trips to the vet, especially at first. Caroline does not like the car one little bit. Once she gets to the vet, she is what she is, but the car has never been a place for her. Anyway, speaking of that, then our next option is to do the surgery. The surgery, let's face it, the surgery is a very good chance that she won't make it through the surgery, or that if she does, in that first 24 after, she might not. She's still at risk for a lot of things, and we're not sure how much of the pancreas is going to wind up having to be removed. So now remember, you can live without a pancreas, period, and have to be on insulin and digestive enzymes. And the surgeon's preference is however much he can save, but if he can save up to 20% of the pancreas, but very good chance of bleeding out on the table. Blood clots are definitely on the table and off the table. And really, in that first week or so, it could be tough. Now, she's going to be hospitalized for 3 to 4 days, so she'll be pretty dopey and she's not going to feel anything. So that's assuming she would get off the table without dying. Again, like I said before, theoretically, that's a risk worth taking because, on one hand, she just goes to sleep. And isn't that what would happen anyway if we wind up having to euthanize her? Then it's the same deal. And then there's the final scenario, which is that we go into hospice mode at the house, and the surgeon, and again, remember, he hasn't seen her. He's just seen all the charts and the imaging and everything. But he said in his experience, which admittedly is a lot, with the radiation chemo route, we could be looking at 3 months to 9 months, maybe even a year, maybe, but probably not. The surgery, obviously we know, but if she did make it through the surgery, she could actually have a quasi-normal life, and who knows how much longer she could live. From a couple of case studies that I read, of course, none of them dealing with a mass the size of the great outdoors, but without a pancreas and with part of the pancreas, animals went on to live for a number of years afterwards. And then there's the final scenario, which is short time. The vet said that as opposed to, weeks to months, we're looking at days to weeks. And as much as she's not showing symptoms all that much right now, she will. And it'll happen pretty rapidly. So there we are. By the way, that's her when she was a little baby. And this great company, I forget their name, All Pop Art, maybe? But they made this from one of her kitten pictures. So that was the picture, and I'll try to find the other picture, but that was the picture that convinced me that we did need to adopt her. Because she was the last, like I said, the last of the litter, or 2 litters. So that was her at about, my guess is that was 12 weeks. And within, another 4, she was with us. Anyway, so a couple things. The first thing is this really does expose whatever your tendencies are when you're hit with something that you can't digest. I think, bastardization of the old saying, which is that, God will only give you as much as you can handle, which is greatly subjective. But anyway, where I have been going is in my cave. Mina's been leaning in, slept with her on the couch last night, has been just glued to each other. I have been off somewhere else, either physically at the moment in my studio or emotionally, spiritually. I'm still trying to get my arms around what happened a week ago. I still can't seem to, when he said days to weeks, I was like, that just does not add up. I mean, she just looks like Caroline, but she probably doesn't. Last night we were watching an episode of The Crown, and it's the episode where Princess Margaret keeps getting these strokes. I mean, she refuses to slow her life down. She likes to party, and she has one debilitating stroke after another, really gruesome stuff. And then, it starts to get into that place of she and Elizabeth knowing that time is short. I mean, and it's funny because in that moment, I'm not associating one with the other. And all I knew is I was getting really sick to my stomach. And I just had an antsy. Audrey was like begging me to go outside, and I was just not having it from anyone at that moment. So I told me, I couldn't watch it anymore, and I was going to take Audrey out. And I take first Audrey, and then I take Pasha out for a little walk. And Audrey started barking at probably a possum or something, and I snapped, not on her, but on the grated steel lattice work of the catio, and I punched it. And opened myself up pretty good, and I didn't notice it until I was bleeding over the kitchen sink. I hid it from Minu, which I guess she's going to find out now, because it was a uncharacteristic loss of control. And then I went to bed, and she went to sleep with Caroline on the couch. You could teach classes on grief, on anticipatory grief, and I will say in those classes, by giving examples of what has happened in my own life, that, we're always going to be a student to grief. But there's something that just makes me feel like a hypocrite. Maybe I'm just feeling judgy right now, but, you just feel like a hypocrite, because it's the avoidance of the anticipation is turning me into someone that I don't recognize. And that makes things worse. It's almost like you're looking at a painting that somebody made of you, and you're going, well, I know who that is, but, and I don't want to be that. And all of this in the foreboding of what just sucks and what hurts and and a decision that is just so beyond my abilities to. And yes, the question has come to me in a few different ways and a few different people, and over the past few days, actually three different people, including Minu, because I think everybody feels like it's something that I guess I'm good at, which is to be with an animal in a way that, you know, in a sort of a deep way, not calling myself an animal communicator. I don't even like that term. In fact, I really don't like it. When an animal is with me, when we're connecting, I know. I know. I just can't tell you what I know. Not because it's a secret, it's just because I don't know how to do that. So what do I know about Caroline? Minu and I had a conversation where she said, well, what would, if it was you? And I'm not going to go into like what our answers were, but, some people are going to be like, you know what? It's been a good life. I just want to sort of sit here and watch the sunset a few more times. I don't want to go through all this stuff. In a very cruel twist to this whole thing, my mom died of pancreatic cancer almost 7 years ago. Just feels like yesterday. And she would have done anything to stick around. Anything. In fact, we had, clinical trials that were on deck, but she never made it that far. And her birthday was December 19th, which was just a few days ago. We also lost Barry December 18th in 2016. So all this is happening a little emotionally fast. Anyway, I don't know where I was. The one thing that I could identify, and because, in a live, I would say like Minu and I have clarity. We don't. We're going to discuss. We have to make a decision today. We have to. Because at least as far as the surgery is concerned, he wants to do the surgery no later than Wednesday. The window is closing in terms of when she could have even a little bit of a chance. And I was asked, what do you think she wants? I hate that question, but then I thought, she wants her spot. She defines spots in the house, and especially as she's gotten older, a little arthritic, she glues herself to those spots. One of them I showed you yesterday, under where Sammy is. She likes to be covered. And another one is a bed that she loves under the dining room table, and sometimes the couch, which is where she was with Minu all last night. She likes her spots. She's a homebody. And if that's my barometer, then that's what she wants. So where I'm leaning to at this very moment, and what I'll talk to Minu about later, because it's, even though I'm the one who's had her since she was a baby, she is ours, our daughter. And I think that I would default to just letting her write out her time in her spot. And we just keep a very close eye. I have always said, I will always say, never on their worst day. And that is a very tough call, because as I'm finding out, because I am and always will be, as will all of us, be students of grief. It will find a way to humble you. Forget humble, like slap you around. It's just every day is a gut check. And if it happens as fast as I think it's going to happen, it's really going to fucking suck. But I don't think, in a very simplistic way, I don't think she's going to want to be in the car for 3 hours going to the hospital. I don't think she'd want to go in the car constantly to go get radiation that at the end of the day really isn't going to greatly expand her life. Everything is profit and loss, profit and loss. And the only profit to this is hers. I don't want to be on emotional call 24/7 waiting for every sign, but that's what we're going to have to do. And I just think that that's what I'll advocate for. Now, that could change the minute Minu and I are together, and maybe she'll say something different. But I think that feels as right as something is going to feel when it's this f***ed up. And this is really, really f***ed up. I mean, we've been through a lot, you know. We've lost so many. And this one just feels so extra because there is no right answer, you know? Which is probably why we're going back and forth like this. I'm just angry, you know? Which is such an accessible thing as anger, you know? But, you know, meaning easy to be angry at a radiologist, easy to be angry at Audrey for barking. It's easy to be angry at the universe for just constantly making us learn new lessons about how to lose somebody. How many different ways we can do this. How many different ways we can twist ourselves into pretzels. Not that I would change a moment of it, ever. I treasure every soul that has passed through my life. It's just and if I lean on my sort of training as it is in grief, I got to remember a few things. One is that when the door starts to open, it's going to open to the experience of losing everybody. And I think we try really hard to avoid those things. And it's all about avoidance, you know? I think also another thing to remember is that this is about incorporating life and death, love and loss. They are all one and they are all happening at the same time. And that should be a comfort, because if it's all one thing, then, you know, I just think I'm going to turn into, you know, dust. But it's everything, and it's everything at once. And that's easier said than done. So let's see what today brings.